Welcome back, you spine-tingling creatures. Today is another step going back through time. Today, we're gonna go and attend a circus from space. If you don't know what I mean, today I'm talking about what I consider a certified hood classic. If you're still clueless about what I'm talking about Killer Klowns from Outer Space. If you don't know anything about this movie, you either had parents that hated you and didn't love you, or you grew up an orphan. Now, since that clearly shows there is no excuse to not know about this movie came out in the 80s as the most corny, unserious horror movie that the directors even knew that this is exactly what they wanted the audience to see. And I'm gonna be honest, I would have felt ashamed if I didn't include this movie into this. I think that this is such a good movie, and I don't know how else to say this. The glazing is on point today because this is a great movie that I loved watching growing up. Now, enough with all that. We're gonna start talking about the movie, alright? The movie begins by showing us our protagonist making out and looking into the stars, when they're suddenly interrupted by what they thought was a shooting star. After hiking over there, they discovered that it was actually an alien spaceship in the appearance of a circus. Huh! How kooky is that? After they enter the spaceship, they find dead people wrapped up in cotton candy cocoons. And since they're not exactly subtle or quiet about this new information, they're chased out by the evil space clowns because they're scared and they scream. The two protagonists, Mike Tobacco and Debbie Stone, are shot by a gun that uses popcorn as the projectile. Now, bear with me when I say they were shot by popcorn. It just happens, they're clowns, that's their thing. They use joke weapons. But anyway, the both of them meet up with another protagonist, David Hansen. David Hansen is a police officer that dated Debbie. So when he asks Mike to go into the middle of the woods to look at the circus, David kind of looks like he wants to shoot him. I'm gonna put it out there. He looks like he's mad dogging him. He looks like he's gonna actually John Wayne Gacy him and bury him in his basement for all the new homecomers to look. But after they go and drop him off at Debbie's house, he straight up keeps him in the back of the police cruiser like he's an actual criminal. As they leave, they end up finding evidence of the space killer clowns, proving that Mike and Debbie haven't been smoking any of that crazy crack rock that was 1,000% circulating around America. This is the 80s. The crack epidemic was increasing. But, the only reason I say this is their little evidence was because when Mike took David out there, he kind of didn't exactly, how do I put this? It wasn't there. The spaceship was gone. And the only thing that was there was just this big old hole, a ginormous crater. So, they drove around, they found a bunch of people at Makeout Point, and they're like, oh wait, these people are, they're dead. They're cocooned. They are cobwebbed with cotton candy. But anyway, all sorts of extra debauchery happens with these clowns running rampant through this tiny little town. And they all end up turning most of the people there into cotton candy. Now, in my opinion, I think there were two scenes in this movie that I think were just so, funny and kooky and interesting. But the one that I was kind of frustrated with watching was when this little girl was being enticed to go outside at night while eating at a burger joint, surrounded by her entire family, mind you. This place was so full. I don't know how nobody noticed this. But the clown pretends to be friendly, and it calls out to her by waving its fat little finger. It's like, come here, little one. Come hither, come hither. But, it doesn't really, say words, because it speaks alien, I guess. But the camera pans around behind the clown to show that it's holding a comically large mallet. Which made me think, are they seriously going to do what I think they're going to do? Are they going to kill this little child? But, they don't, because they still have to keep it PG-13, which I still can't believe they got away with making this PG-13. But thankfully, the parents of this little child weren't that brain dead and actually noticed this little girl was trying to go outside. But the thing that made me so mad is they don't acknowledge this big old Shaquille O'Neal sized clown looking like a diseased, colorful piece of melted cheese that was standing there. Like if I saw Bumpy over there, I'd be like, hey yo, get the gun! I know you guys have a gun here. This is a burger joint called Big Top Burger. If anything has a gun, it's one of the cookers back there. Anyway, the other scene was when David's co-worker, Officer Mooney, is confronted by the same clown from the burger joint. Skip forward a little bit, and David makes his way over to the station to call for state police backup. And the clown that killed Mooney uses him as a puppet to talk to David, which I think was very ironic, and I think they did that on purpose. Because previous, in a movie, when they have word of this little clown invasion, they call, Officer Mooney says, "You're not gonna make a puppet out of me, boy." But, he's just, I think that's funny, because he was then made into a puppet. But anyway, the clown uses him to talk to David, and it straight up says, "Hey yo, I'ma kill everybody in this town." And then he straight up gets up like he's gonna have a D1 crash out. He rushes David as slow as possible though. And David, being the quick draw dead shot that he is, he shoots 3 to 4 times, and the only shot that actually kills it was a shot to its nose. It then cuts to Michael's girlfriend, Debbie, getting out of the shower. But instead of watching Debbie dry off like you nasty little perverts would hope, the camera pans down to the hamper, showing that the popcorn ended up being a sort of clown larva, which is something disgusting and I didn't expect to ever say in my entire life. But there's a first for everything. So, what instead spawned out of this clown larva was slimy worms with closed, popped out eyes trying to bite her, which makes her run out of the bathroom to be greeted by even more clowns, which end up capturing her in a yellow balloon. Now we're gonna have to take a little step back again, because the scene before shows Mike crawling to an ice cream truck owned by his 2 friends, prompting him to convince them that he has to save his girlfriend, even though they just witnessed a parade of clowns cruising downtown or at least they're trying to collect a light snack of like 100 people. They hit them with a cotton candy blicky, but by the time they end up making it to Debbie's house, they see the clowns dragging Debbie's balloon from behind their clown car, which is kind of humorous, I guess. Obviously it doesn't look like her because it's still in the balloon, and there is nobody in the balloon. But this made Mike and his friends chase the clowns down, with David also making a swift pursuit until Mike's friends come to a complete stop, which ends up making David smash into the back of the truck, which, I'm gonna be honest, they were going a solid 40 to 50 miles an hour, and these are old cars, so they were all metal. I have no idea how David survived that. If anything, he would have ripped through his seatbelt and flung himself into the back of the van and died. But instead, he's like, "Mike, we gotta save Jack. We gotta save her. I got my shotgun." But they end up going all the way to the amusement park, but the clowns make it there first, and they have to do something pretty sad to a poor old man. And when they meet this sweet old man working as a security guard, he was going to eat this disgusting, rancid-looking egg sandwich that I know for a fact he let cook in his jacket all night. But after they saw this man doing that, he was instead pied for his sins, and he was left to be melted by the acid pies. After his goopy corpse was discovered by the 3 protagonists, they enter the clown spacecraft, which then prompts Mike's friends to end up falling through the floor into a ball pit where they end up clowning around with the only 2 women clown down there. This isn't relevant to the story at all, but I just love this little taste of 80s schlock that always creeps its way into any film. No matter how serious it is, they always find a way to put something like that in there, and I think it is beautiful. Anyway, David and Mike make it to the cotton candy room where they see a clown that walks in, and it looks like it's got testicular cancer. And I mean, this man was cursed from the beginning to look like a bowling pin. But anyway, he demonstrates that he can suck a golf ball through a garden hose, which, is insane. He had the longest, what are they called, straws ever, and he was still able to, get his light snack in, and he just leaves after that like nothing else happened. But Mike and David rescue Debbie by shooting her prison ball. After they do that, they kind of anger every clown there. So they end up escaping into several different rooms, until they are forced to be stuck in a dark room with no hope of leaving. Until Mike's homeboys bust through the wall through the ice cream van, distracting the clowns. This act of courage ends up calling down the big boy, the big old clown boss, from his top floor suite, just for him to wail on the van and destroy it with the brothers along inside. Mike and Debbie were able to leave by letting David sacrifice himself to destroy the spaceship and the leader of the clowns. Somehow, when the spaceship explodes, David had enough time to run to the clown car. I don't know how he did it. I don't even know how they had one in there in any proximity. But they end up finding the brothers too, alive mind you, as they were still hiding in a freezer full of ice cream. Now, I think that was pretty cool and all, but the ending scene of them getting hit by acid pies, I think that was meant to leave us assume that they were like melted to death, which is pretty fun, I guess. It was a little freeze frame of them covered in it. But the movie was so bad that it cemented itself into film history. Not only as being so bad it's good kind of thing, but to a point where it's become such a certified hood classic that they even got a video game like 2 years ago of the exact same name. You know, they're not exactly going to have this film remembered as the greatest of all time for horror, but more of a corny, unserious horror movie that I think should be put on at like a party, or if you and the boys want to hang out and watch movies all day. But as I've said before and several times already, I still recommend watching it, even if you've already seen it. I think it just deserves to have a spot on the October movie schedule, just in general. Thank you to anybody and everyone that has stayed to the end of this video. If you have made it to the end, comment BOFA so I can see the goats that watched this video. And as always, I hope you enjoyed.